Hello and welcome everybody to this British Council webinar looking at teaching maths through English. This is part of our wider series looking at dynamic CLIL lessons. Some of the webinars were delivered in 2024, and now we're back for a second round. We're very, very grateful to our speakers, including Sarah, who I'll introduce in a moment, to all the conseillers pédagogiques who have helped support our speakers and will be introducing throughout the 4 weeks that we're together. To begin with today, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name's George Wilson. I'm the head of English and School Education for the British Council in France. I'm here with my colleague Solène Bertz, who is the project manager in our team and will be leading some of the webinars. And of course, Sarah Hilliard, who is our star speaker for today. So Sarah's a teacher trainer, a teacher, a school leader with huge amount of experience in the field of CLIL. You may remember Sarah from the last part of this series, and we're delighted to welcome her back. Sarah writes books for a range of publishers on CLIL. She also delivers pre-primary education training courses and a range of webinars in different contexts around the world. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, George. It's lovely to be here again.
So, as I said before, we are hugely grateful to all the conseillers pédagogiques, the pedagogical advisors who support this series, and of course to the French Ministry of Education for sharing it so widely. In particular, today, Sarah has been working very closely with Mr. Brunet, Jean-Noël Brunet, from the Academy of Grenoble, who I hope is here today. And we really want to say an enormous thank you to you. So, the next 4 weeks, the next 4 Tuesdays, will be dedicated to exploring tips, techniques, strategies for teaching specific subjects through English in primary education. Today's topic is teaching maths through English, and these webinars are part of a wider strategy that we have in France to build positive cultural relations between the UK, France, the UK, and other countries. And we do that by supporting, if we could move on to the next slide, Sarah, the learning, teaching, and assessment of English and of subjects taught through English. We do that in different ways. First of all, through research, then through the promotion of exchange between the UK and other countries for students and for teachers. We offer advice and support, and we connect experts with different academies around France. We offer resources for teachers, lesson plans, and so on. And we offer training like this webinar series. Our newsletter is a great source of information about what we're doing and a brilliant way to keep in touch. So I strongly recommend that you enroll for that teacher development newsletter. If we could have the next slide. I just wanted to focus before we begin today on 4 key elements of our work. The first one is our Teaching English online community. This community brings together teachers, teacher educators around the world, around 6 million every year, and tens of thousands in France. And these teachers come together to share resources, to read our research publications, and to participate in webinars like this one. We also offer teacher training courses, capacity building courses, which are a bit longer and involve a Facebook element so you can interact. So do sign up for those. We also have our Schools Connect France program, which is a search engine that enables a school in France or anywhere in the world, in fact, to fill in a profile defining what kind of exchange they would like to have with a UK school. On the UK side, people do the same thing, schools do the same thing. And then you can search for partners. It's super simple to use, and we encourage you to enroll for that, to build partnerships for students, for teachers, virtual, physical, and perhaps through pen friends and so on. And the next two things I wanted to highlight are two things both Selene and I think, are very proud of over the last year. We've published our recent research report into the current landscape of CLIL in primary education in France with the support of Norwich Institute for Language Education. We produced this report really looking at the literature of research, looking at what the policy documents say and what that looks like at an academy level. Out of that, we came up with a whole list of different research projects that we're hoping to launch and work on over the next few years. And of course, the policy engagement side of our work takes the form of international workshops like this one. And this international workshop was specifically on CLIL, run in partnership with France Éducation Internationale. And we're in the process of publishing reports, videos, blogs, all about this exciting event, which took place in November. So do go onto the webpage, and there you'll be able to check out all the information about those. Now, before we start the webinar, just a couple of housekeeping rules. You've got at the bottom of your screen a Q&A function, question and answer. Please use that to ask us any questions you might have. And then we will come to those at the end. Please, lots and lots of questions would be wonderful. You've also got the chat function where, as you are, you can interact with Sarah and us and tell us what you're thinking, share ideas, and so on. The webinar lasts until 6:30, French Metropolitan Time. And in that time, we'll be covering the webinar, the Q&A, and we'll be telling you how to get a feedback form. And from there, the certificate of attendance. So stay tuned to hear about that at the end. Okay, so let me hand over to Sarah now.
Thank you very much, George. Thanks for that lovely introduction, and hello, everybody. Wow, you are keen to write in that chat box, so that's a good start. I will be asking a lot of questions, and I will be asking you to interact with me a lot, so it's great to see many of you are already in there and happy to participate. And so I'm really happy to have been invited one more time to these webinars, to collaborate in these series of CLIL webinars, as I did last year, and this year we'll be looking at maths. And basically how to support this learning. So what we're going to start with is, of course, try and find a definition for maths, or what we think maths is and what maths involves. What is specifically maths when you're doing it through CLIL in a different language, in English, content and language being integrated in a lesson? And we'll consider what are good strategies for helping learners learn. What do they need? What is good methodology? What are good materials to use? And then, of course, for the practical ideas part, my favourite, we'll be touching on things like guessing games and card games and poems and songs and stories that connect with maths in primary. So I hope that sounds exciting. And then at the end, just a few little tips and quick, easy, simple ideas to keep motivation levels high. So my first question is, what is maths? I spent Christmas in Paris. So to answer this question, I have compiled many photographs that I took in Paris while I was there in December, and I've created this collage and that I made of my trip there, and it comes to mind how much maths I can spot in the pictures. Can you spot maths in my photographs? Tell me what you can see. What maths concepts? Where can you see maths? Barbara says geometry, shapes, pyramid. Yes. Wow, you're going so fast. Pyramids, lines, counting, circles, measurements, comparisons, perspectives, point, measurements. Wow, amazing stuff. Look how much there is in my trip to Paris. It's full of maths. Look at the shapes, the Louvre, not only the outline, also the structural aspect is so geometrical, the ceiling with its shapes and its symmetry, the Eiffel Tower with its, I don't know how many triangles, and see the details with those little circles that go up, and the size of it, of course, wow. And how many bars of soap do you think are in that photograph? That photo would be great to do estimation, for example. We walked up 222 steps to reach the Basilica. The number of chairs that we saw outside the restaurants, all looking outwards, all set out in a pattern, looking towards the road. The size of those wine bottles, those really big wine bottles. So comparisons, as someone says there. The number of Mickey Mouse ears that were served in Disneyland. And how big is that Louis Vuitton handbag, which is actually a hotel, I believe, that's going to open this year, I think. So, wow, there are lots and lots of different shapes and lines and patterns and numbers in all these photographs, aren't there? So these photos represent my life in December last year. So what is math? So we said all of this, didn't we? Yes, it's 1, 2, 3, it's more, fewer, it's circles, it's squares, it's triangles, it's over and under and tall and short and bigger and smaller and red and patterns, but it's life. It was my life in December, all that. So it's everywhere. Yes, Dominique, life, of course. And in every corner, even a corner is mathematical, it's an angle where two lines and edges meet. Even every corner of life is mathematical. So I was telling my children I was going to be giving this session about maths, and 12-year-old Alex and 8-year-old Mila, they're my children, grabbed a ball and they started analysing it and said, for them it was natural. They just said, oh, maths is everywhere. Look at this ball, said my son. It's got hectagons and pentagons and stars, and each star has like triangles on it, and it's a sphere, which is a 3D shape. It's not 2D, and everything in life is 3D, he started thinking, because if it's 2D, that means it's a flat screen. That means it's on a television screen or a computer or a phone screen or in a book, an illustration, but the book is 3D. So that's already maths as well. And they started thinking about the design of the ball, and the person who made it had to measure how much material they would need to make this ball. So they just took one ball from their life and they started discovering all the maths it's got in it. And they concluded on their own, without me saying anything, life is maths and maths is life. That's what they said, a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old who were talking about this. But then we need to go into the classroom. So, and of course, by saying this, by teaching maths, we are talking about life, and of course there is lots of maths in a classroom. So we're coming to the classroom now and thinking about how maths can be used for many different reasons. Of course, we're teaching mathematical concepts, geometry, spatial relationships and measurements, everything we just said. We're teaching the mathematical concepts, but if you're doing it through English or through a different language, in this context of integrating maths and English, there is a huge added benefit, which is that dual proficiency, where students gain both the subject-specific knowledge and the foreign language competence. And if we agree that maths is life and we're doing maths in English, then we're also demonstrating skills that apply to real life, helping to make real world connections, connecting classroom learning, the maths, to life, but also English to life. So it's more relevant to students' lives and understanding the practical use of the language. But also to develop skills for the whole individual, like critical thinking or logical thinking or divergent thinking through maths, creative thinking, because of course the problem solving, you need to think outside the box and not always logically. So there is a lot of creativity in maths as well. And maths is great for routines and structured moments, like having a maths challenge routine or the maths riddle of the day, or little intentional moments where that you do, like how many steps do we take to get to the playground? Those little intentional things that you can do that integrate maths into anything you do while you're using English, because you can find it everywhere. So I just wanted to start, after this brief introduction about maths through English, with a little warm-up, and see if we can play this little game that is called My Life in Numbers. So it very well connects with maths being a part of life. And this slide features some important numbers in my life, but I've covered them up, and I will reveal them so that you can guess what each of the numbers means in my life, or what each number represents in my life. Okay, so the first number that I'm going to reveal is 3. What do you think number 3 might represent in my life? Children know. I've got 2 children, Mila and Alex. Date of birth, no, my date of birth, 26th of February. Pets, okay, pets. I've got 3 pets, a dog, a rabbit, and an axolotl. There you go, 3 pets. Next number is number 37. What do you think? Unfortunately, I am not 37 years old anymore. I'm 40. So no, I'm not 37 anymore, unfortunately. Shoe size, Eleanor. I don't know if you were the first to say it because there's so much in there, but I think Eleanor, my shoe size is 37. Very good. Oops. And my last number is number 2. What do you think 2 represents in my life? Yes, okay, I had given that away, but actually I put number 2 in there for a different reason. Can you guess what other reason it might be? It could have been my kids, because I do have 2 kids, but no, I chose it for a different reason. Hobbies? No, I didn't choose it for the hobbies. Nationalities? No, I'm British, I'm only British. Jobs? No, I think I've got more jobs than 2. I do lots of different projects at the same time. So 2 is the times that I have been to France in my life. This last one for Christmas, and another time about 13 years ago, only with my husband before we had children. So those are 3 facts about me and about the big numbers in my life and important things in my life. So well done. You now know a little bit more about me. So it's a good way of starting to get to know someone else and using numbers in between. So how did this little warm-up make you feel? How did you feel playing this little game or doing this little warm-up? Nice, exciting, motivating, enjoyable, interested, engaging. Okay, lovely. Connecting with numbers. Okay, that was nice too, because it's that emotional aspect that we don't want to forget about, but also you're integrating something connected with maths to something that is emotionally interesting. So it's nice to do this integration as well. So we've got numbers, we've got English, and we've got the emotional aspect. So don't forget about the emotional aspect and having fun through maths as well. We're going to look at some more serious ways of teaching maths, but also some more creative, perhaps, or engaging ways of teaching maths like this. Okay, so going into the more meaty part of the session, we are going to be looking at more deeply into our topic, how maths fits especially in CLIL. What do you know about CLIL? Do we know what CLIL stands for? What are those acronyms? CLIL? Nothing? Okay, well, that's good to get to know what it is then. Stephanie, content. Yes, well done. There's a lot of content. And we've got Marie saying content and language integrated learning. Thank you, Marie. You were the first one to say it. Excellent. And we've got someone saying, Melanie is saying it's a meal in French. Yes, thank you for that. Good. So anyone wondering, or what you call DNL? Yes, thank you, very good. DNL is a meal, or DNL is what I'm talking about. So when I say CLIL, that is what I'm going to be trying to say. Okay, so these are the 4 elements that are said to create successful CLIL or EMIL or DNL lessons. So let's connect it with maths. In a CLIL lesson, there's going to be content, of course, content and language integrated learning. So of course there's going to be content, which is the knowledge or the skills or the understandings related to the subject, in our case maths. So what is maths knowledge? It's maths topics, it's algebra, it's numbers, it's geometry, it's maths problems. Communication. What maths language will learners communicate during the lesson? So that's really important for the language part of our CLIL lesson. Yes, there's of learning, for learning, through learning. Yes, all those concepts, excellent. It's the 4 C's framework, Lucienne, excellent. Yes, good, fantastic. So there's communication. What language are we going to be using in the lesson? Language for comparing, for example, or language for contrasting graphs, or the language of problem solving, or the language of calculations. Something plus something equals something. We need to know those words. We need to know how to say plus. We need to say how equals if we want to communicate something. There's cognition. Cognition is the development of thinking skills, concept formation, understanding. So what thinking skills do they use? Maybe there's identifying, there's classifying, there's reasoning, there's sequencing. And Zenab has just said okay, those are some of the other acronyms that are used in CLIL. CALPS and BIC, Sonia. Yes, we're going to come to that later. Fantastic. So with all this information, we're thinking a lot about what CLIL means. Yes. And the 4th C here is culture. Community or citizenship, as sometimes it's referred to as well. But is there a cultural focus on the lesson, or do learners from different language backgrounds calculate things in the same way? Or how are these things said in different ways in different countries? Or what symbols do we use? Are they always the same or different? There is quite a universal language of maths, at least in terms of symbols. But of course, every language has its different ways of saying those symbols, of naming them. Is it the same in your language? Are the words similar? Yeah, and making connections. Okay. All right. So there are big challenges, and Lucienne is asking about the mental load. I think, yes, that kind of, is it too much? Perhaps that's kind of the question. And you just came in perfect timing with that question, because I've also got a question here, which is, are you taking any foreign language classes? Yes, maths. Instead of a foreign language per se, like, yes, English, I'm learning maths, and that's a foreign language class. So yes, there are big challenges of teaching maths through a language. And Magali, maths is a language in itself. Well done for that one too. Maths is a language in itself, and that is really important. Yes. That little joke shows us, for some children, they might be feeling like they're learning two foreign languages at the same time, English and maths, because it has its own language. So that is really, really important to think about as well. Maths is a complex language with its own patterns and its own symbols and its own vocabulary. So put that together with the foreign language and boom, it's really challenging. So we could see it as putting two languages together as well, apart from that mental load that you were mentioning as well. So what are the challenges in terms of language, and what type of support do students need? That is really important, I think. So what we're going to be looking at here is those examples I'm going to be giving you that are practical and great to use in the classroom, but also how do we support students, because we don't want it to be way too challenging. We need to give them a challenge, but not too challenging that it will be frustrating or overwhelming. Yeah? Marie says sometimes the new language helps them to focus, and that's a great point as well. Very nice point, Marie. Yes, lovely. So, for example, a table is one thing in everyday English, but in maths, table has a very specific and different meaning that you might use to mean a multiplication table. And having said that, table has even more meanings in other subject areas. Science, a periodic table of elements, or in literature, you have the table of contents in a book. So there are different ways of using those same words as well. And that is interesting in terms of communication. That's one of those C's, one of those 4 C's. And the language itself, how we use that language in different ways. And we have different tiers of vocabulary, we call them tiers of vocabulary, where one is used in everyday speech, like the first table, and one is used in a subject-specific way, which is a multiplication table. Yeah, that chart is a multiplication table. That's what we call it. So we say, in a maths class, you might say, get your tables out to help you do this activity. And you'll say table. You're not meaning the table where you work on. You're meaning your multiplication tables. So here we're moving from the everyday language to something much more specific in terms of the language of maths. So table would be heard a lot in basic communication, in a classroom where maths is done. Sit at your tables or put your ruler on the table. We call that BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills. It's basic communication, put your ruler on the table. Can we say times table? Yes, that's another way of using table, of course. And when we use table in that sense, as a multiplication table or times table, we're using it as CAL. This is cognitive academic language proficiency. It's that subject-specific language that you need in maths. Okay, so we've got basic interpersonal communication skills, BICS, and we've got CALP. We've got cognitive academic language proficiency. Okay, so think about your dual role as a teacher, teaching both the basic language your learners need in everyday situations in English and the academic language skills they need in the subject area, in this case maths, that will be in English. So could you tell me, if I asked you, is this BICS or CALP? What would you say? If I say, everybody in class, write the number in your notebook. Is this BICS or CALP? What would you say? It's BICS. Very good. That's it. Fantastic. You've answered. Basic communication. If I said 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals 3 times 4. Is that CALP or is that BICS? Yes, that's CALP. Very good. We would really only hear that in a maths class. It's small. When would you use that? Is that BICS or CALP? It's small. Yeah, it's BICS, isn't it? It's basic communication. Something is big or small, but of course, it's part of maths because it's size. If I subtract 5, the result will be smaller. That would be calc, exactly. It's much more subject specific. Okay, I think we get the idea. So well done. We're not going to be focusing too much on bits and calc, but it's important to notice the difference when you're teaching maths through a different language. You need to think about language quite a lot here. So here we have some words that I've taken from a lesson plan where there's a really nice activity in the lesson plan, lots of some different activities, but there's one main activity which is really nice. And this is the language that I took from that lesson plan. So could you think of what kind of activities or activity would you use that you think you would need this language for? What kind of activity would you need all this language for? In, on, under, in front, behind, but also run, walk, hop, sit, run backwards, playground, tree, monkey bars, bench, pencil, case, ruler, book, a clue, the treasure. In what kind of lesson would you be using all this? Treasure hunt. I spotted treasure hunt in there. Amazing. Okay, so the main activity was a treasure hunt from where I got this. And of course you're looking mainly in terms of language to talk about prepositions, and the maths concept would be spatial relationships. So you would want to pre-teach key language, maybe play a game like Simon Says, and Simon Says put the pencil in the pencil case, or put the pencil case between two books. So you want to make sure that this language is very, very clear in the classroom before you go out and do the treasure hunt in the playground. So hopefully it will be done outside if possible. I know in some contexts it's not possible to go outside, but if you can, take maths outside as well. Go outdoors, do things that are different. So it was a lesson where children first inside the classroom were doing Simon Says, were playing a game. They had a treasure map dictation with student A and student B drawing and then describing to the other and using this language. And then they went out to the playground to do it. And it's really nice to see these kinds of activities where kinesthetic learning is happening, requiring a lot of movement as well. So of course, spatial relationships is great for movement, but language is really well learned through the body. So if you can do this integration as well with maths and language and using the body to learn that, then that is going to be really effective. That is great. So this takes us to what helps learners learn. I just said movement, using the body, that really helps. Yes, Farida says you can use flashcards and the school objects to help you illustrate your lesson. Absolutely. So using things in your environment. And yes, lots of gestures and visual support, as you're saying in the chat. And songs, says Valerie. Absolutely. So this that you can see on the screen now is a survey that was carried out to find out what helps students learn by asking the students themselves to express how they feel they would learn this more. These were Spanish-speaking students that were learning maths through English. I've adapted the findings a little bit, but this is what they said, that it would be useful to provide more vocabulary on the worksheet. So when they get the worksheets, having more vocabulary in English there, providing more diagrams and pictures to clarify, someone just said using lots of visuals, providing more explanations. There was perhaps a lack of explanations. Someone is saying simple instructions and demonstrations, and I think that would help a lot in terms of explaining things. Use an easy word for explanation. So you really have to think before you go into the classroom, how am I going to explain this? Are you going to explain it in English? Are you going to explain it in L1? Because that is also a possibility. if you're using L1 in a way that is helpful, there's a principled use of the L1 that you want to make use of to make it easier, of course. So that's that mental load that someone was asking about before. You also have the possibility of including students L1, okay? Simplifying vocabulary a lot, using games, providing L1 where necessary, and having a list of vocabulary with illustrations that they can go back to, references that they can go back to. Sometimes you display things on the walls. So this means, of course, all those visuals of charts and diagrams, word walls, or maths remembering walls. So you have things on the wall. Yes, sorry, L1 is the language the children speak, and orally, and L2 would be the new language, the target language, okay? So you have L1 and L2 in the classroom, and some children may have more languages as well. Manipulatives use a lot of playing cards and coins and wooden blocks, and you can use life objects, or you can use specifically maths objects, of course, but use lots, mainly if you're teaching the lower levels. Little children really need hands-on, kinesthetic activities, things to touch and manipulate and move around, concrete and tangible. More so if you're doing it in a different language. They need to be able to grasp things with their hands and their senses. Games, stories, poems, art, songs, rhyme, of course, there's lots of maths integrated in these kinds of resources and materials. Using real life context and interactive and collaborative learning, having pair and group work helps as well for their language, because they can remind each other of the language they need to use. And scaffolding and pre-teaching, those things that you need to think of when you, okay, I want them to be able to use this language, I'm going to explain it, I'm going to write it on the board or on the word wall, and they have it for reference when they're working. Teaching them how to think and developing strategies is super important, not only for their maths but also for their English. Motivational tools and techniques, so making it interesting and engaging, and the principled use of the language. So that study helps us to analyse what it means practically for the classroom. So coming into the practical, I'm going to be giving you some examples of good practice, and I worked together with Mr. Jean-Noël Brunet from Grenoble. Sorry, Jean-Noël, if I'm mispronouncing your name. But we worked very well together to create this this session. So he's been so kind to share with me some activities and lessons that the teachers over there do in their lessons. So I've taken some examples from there. Others are my own examples. So thank you very much for that. So we're going to play a game. You have to pay a lot of attention to play this game with me. You need focus, you need concentration, and the ability to keep numbers in your brain, okay? I'm going to be paying attention to the chat box, and I will only take the first number I see, okay, because there's lots of you. So I will consider the first number that I see in the chat box. And if someone writes a number, yeah, wait for it, I'm going to give you some clues. So I'm going to be thinking, I'll give you a clue, I'll give you a clue. And I'm going to write it down, so you know I'm not cheating. I'm going to write it on this piece of paper. I'm thinking of a number, and I'm going to write it here. It's a number between 1 and 200. Between 1 and 200, so guess my number. 99. It's larger than 99. 123, it's larger than 123. 188, it's smaller than 188. Are you listening to my clues carefully? 174, it's smaller than 174. Remember the smallest number, remember the largest number. 150, it's smaller than 150. 133. It's smaller than 133. 127. Yes. Victoria. Victoria, 127 was the number that I wrote. Well done. Excellent. Okay, lot of focus. See how much you have to concentrate. It's not such an easy game. Of course, you play that, Joanna. Higher or lower, perfect. Different ways of using language. You see, you could say higher or lower, and that's perfect too. And that's also mathematical. So you can encourage students to use, is it 129? Is it 24? Yeah, is it would be a good addition to this so that they can use longer sentences in English, not just the number words. Once they get to the point where they can do this, of course. But the first times you play, you might just say, say the numbers. You can play it again and extend the challenge, make it a bit more challenging. And start small. First times you play it, maybe just say a number between 0 and 10, or 1 and 10. And sometimes to help them visualise the numbers, if they can't keep so many numbers in their brains, sometimes it's useful to draw a number line and gradually erase the numbers that don't fit your clues. So you start reducing it for them visually first, until you can develop this these thinking skills. Okay. Yes, it's a good exercise as a ritual or as a routine, Valerie. Yep, that's perfect. And sometimes you might want to use mathematical symbols. The equal symbol. This is the equal symbol, which has little eyes on it. And you've got the less than and the greater than symbols that are alligators. So it's a kind of like a mnemonic to remember which is the smallest and which is the largest number. And also have a number line present in your classroom, displayed so that students can see them, and provide sentence frames so that students can write in their books as well. Sometimes it's a good idea when you're teaching it through English for them to write not only the number but also write the number in words. Okay, so write number 7 in words as well so that they can start learning the spelling of the words also. And of course you would want children to play this game in pairs or in groups, so you can give them a bit more independence once they know how to play it. They'll probably choose number 67, 6, 7. Does that happen in your contexts these days? I think it's a worldwide thing that children, for some reason it's gone, viral, totally, yes, okay. So they'll probably choose 6, 7, and then you'll have to ban number 67 from the game. But I think it's a really nice game to use, and they really have to think fast, don't they? Circle games are great for maths. Things like, I'll take the second game here, called One at a Time. And my son plays that game at school as well, and he really likes it, where you have a circle of students. I'm just going to read something from the chat box because this is really great. Margot says she did a call and response 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they call back 6, 7. That's great, Margot. You're taking in their interests into the classroom, and that's fantastic. So coming back, one at a time. The group counts to 20. You have a group, a circle of students, and you have to count that. The aim is to count to 20 together, but each person is going to say one number, and it doesn't go in order, not the one next to you. It's random order. So first, you stand in a circle quietly, and someone says 1, and another person says 2, and the other one says 3. And the aim is to get to 20 without anybody saying it at the same time as anybody else. So there is a lot of listening skills in there, lots of paying attention to someone else. it's a team collaborative way of doing it. So we need to count to 20, not just one after the other, but make sure nobody else is going to say it. And if you're brave enough, say the number. Okay? And try to get to 20 many times. It's really difficult. Yes, Victoria, it's a cooperation game. So it's really good. Yes, Dogan, the more you practice, the easier it is for them. That is true, because you start knowing the timing of your group. So you start getting into this, the pace of it becomes really good. Okay, so displaying a number line also helps them if they're learning numbers from 1 to 20. It doesn't have to be 1 to 20, it could be 100 to 250, it could be anything you like. Of course, not that many numbers, but I mean, you can go up in numbers. Yeah, and then it's really nice to make the objective explicit as well, and use I can statements and say I can count 20 or I can count by fives. Card games, of course, are excellent. Orally, we can use the activity for learning multiplication tables. Yes, as well. Yes, you could. That would be great, yes. So this is wonderful because you're thinking of how you can adapt it to your own context. That's great. Okay, so for card games, I think I will just don't go over 100. So you give each child in the pair or group 5 cards, okay, and what they're going to do is take one card, 3, and they put it on the table. Next one takes another card, 5, and they put it on the table. 3 plus 5, 8. Next child, 2. 3 plus 5, 8. 8 plus 2, 10. Next one. 4. 10 plus 4, 14. So you go on adding numbers and adding them up as you go along, as each child puts their card down, and they can't go over 100. The last part, when you get to, at the beginning it's easy, but when you get to the end of the game, when you get to the 90s, you start worrying about what card you're going to put down, because it might let you get to over 100. And if you get to over 100, you lose the game or you're out or whatever. Of course, you don't have to play till 100, you can play till something else. Multiplication war is very similar. You put down cards and the first one to multiply wins. So using cards is great. Blackjack game, yeah. Counting cards to win, absolutely. Uno, yeah. Uno's a great game as well. Sometimes you need to pre-teach the word of some cards, like the Jack and Queen and King, if they're coming into play, or the suits like heart, diamond, clubs and spades, yeah, if they come into play. And here I have a poem, and here it says pure mathematics is in its way the poetry of logical ideas. So that's why I chose a poem for you here. And this is a poem by Shel Silverstein. And I'm going to read this poem, and I'm going to ask you to count the number of band-aids. This poem is called Band-Aids, yeah, plasters. When you hurt yourself and you put a band-aid on. So count the number of band-aids as I read the poem. If you get lost, don't worry. I have a band-aid on my finger, one on my knee and one on my nose, one on my heel and 2 on my shoulder, 3 on my elbow and 9 on my toes, 2 on my wrists and 1 on my ankle, 1 on my chin and 1 on my thigh, 4 on my belly and 5 on my bottom, 1 on my forehead and 1 on my eye, 1 on my back, and in case I might need them, I have a box of 35 more. But oh, I don't think it's sort of a pity I don't have a cut or a sore. Wow! Well done! You counted fast. How did you do that? You're good counters. Okay, good counters. Good mathematicians. I have written a lesson plan for you based on this poem as part of the resources that you will get from this session today. You will get the slides, you will get a lesson plan, and you will get a follow-up activity to do in your classrooms or to reflect upon your lessons based on what I've talked about in the session. So well done, you've done really, really well. What did you use a strategy? Did you use any strategy to count? How are you counting? Were you using your fingers? Were you using your fingers and your toes? How are you counting all those? How did you get to 70? Mental maths. Do you just use your head? Well, many children can't use their heads that fast to do maths in primary school, so we need to make sure that we're giving them the strategies so that they can do these kinds of mental maths at some point, but maybe at the beginning. Little children count on their fingers. That's the first thing you do. You use your body. The first thing you do is use your fingers. And then maybe you can choose different strategies. You can choose from making a drawing, or making a strip diagram, or acting it out, or writing a number sentence, or using tally marks. I think tally marks is a really good strategy for this poem, because you can go marking and then crossing out the fives, and then just counting out the fives and the ones that are left over. So I think that is a really good strategy for this poem, and the lesson plan that I have created for you is based on using the poem with the tally marks. But you could make a drawing of a body and mark crosses where the band-aids are placed and then count them up. Or you could act it out and maybe draw the outline of somebody's body, or even put band-aids on a child's body. Would you be able to do that? Fill them up with band-aids, or maybe the children need to fill the teacher up with band-aids all over their body and then count them up. So you can do it in really creative ways. So that was a rhyming poem, but there are also little rhymes to help remember maths, like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Being even is just great. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Being odd is just fine. So odd and even numbers and little rhymes to be able to remember them. Yes, Muriel, 1, 2, buckle my shoe includes lots of numbers. Counting out rhymes, if you need to choose a child to be the maths helper of the day, or to start playing a game to be the first person, or something, you have counting out rhymes, which are great as well. You go around the circle saying blue shoe, how old are you? And they can invent whatever they want. It doesn't have to be their age. They can say 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that's the child who will be the maths helper of the day, or whatever you're choosing them for. The same thing with bubblegum bubble. And of course there are loads of stories. Yes, another good book, Nicholas says, is 1 is a snail, 10 is a crab. That's excellent. Okay, everybody, you need to be reading the chat box, because there are great ideas. 12 Days of Christmas, you've got in there. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. Bubblegum Valerie is the same. It's very similar to Blue Shoe. It's bubblegum in a dish. How many pieces do you wish? So that child says how many pieces of bubblegum they would want, how many they would wish, and that's the number you count around the circle. So for stories, The Very Hungry Caterpillar has numbers of fruits or food and days of the week, which is also a maths concept. It's time. We are all the shapes. Someone was asking about geometry and shapes. Yes, of course. 1 to 10 and back again is great. It's counting up and counting down. Centipedes, 100 shoes, so counting way up to 100 now, or how big is a million, or even getting to things like a million. And using lots of real objects in the classroom for little children is very important. You want to use things that are around you to make that connection that maths is around you, but also because they need the tangible and the concrete things. And so in this case, we're looking at arrays. This would be the concept, which is arrays, which is a way of putting objects into certain patterns, into neat rows and columns. So you're teaching rows and columns. That is very subject specific as well. And so things like there are would be the language you want to teach them. How many is the question that you're going to be asking. That makes 2 times 3. The candies would disappear from the table, yes, probably. Maybe not use food then, maybe use something different. But toys or things like that, if they're very young, it's nice to use those kinds of materials with them and provide those sentence frames for students to write their reasoning or to be able to have those sentence frames as reference. Yes, there are, that would be a sentence frame. Okay. Keeping motivations levels high. This is the last little section in my session, so I'm going to go over this very quickly, but they are anyway really little quick tips or things that you can do in class to keep motivation levels high and use English while you're using maths as well and making this enjoyable. So limb count is a physical warm-up where you go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you do it with your legs. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And with the other leg. Then you say half it. And you count down from 4 to 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the same with your legs. And then half it. 2. You go 8. Half of 8 was 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Half it. 1, 1, 1, 1. So you do a little warm up with those numbers. You're counting down and you're halving those numbers. So it's a really great physical warm up to start a lesson, or in the middle of the lesson if it's getting a bit monotonous or serious. Little jokes. Why was 6 afraid of 7? What do you think? Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 8 to eat something, 7, 8, 9. The English book asked the maths book why he was so sad. Do you know what he said? The English book asked the maths book why he was so sad. You know what he said? I have so many problems. Yeah. Okay, pay attention. Multiply this number with any number and you will always get the same answer. What's the number? 0. Well done. You're quick thinkers. Wonderful. Classroom management. Somebody said you do the 6, 7 call and response. Okay, lots of different call and response with numbers. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. What does the children answer to that? As a call and response. Teacher says 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. 1, 2, eyes on you. Very good. 1, 2, buckle my shoes. Someone mentioned that before. The children answer 3, 4, knock at the door. What is 2 plus 2 in 1, 2, 3? So you ask for an addition or a multiplication, and they have to say it in 1, 2, 3, and they say it. So what is 2 plus 2 in 1, 2, 3? And they say 4. Okay? And if you can hear me once, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. So you're teaching them once, twice. Okay. Alright, so that's how it goes. And one of the challenges I was told that teachers sometimes have is finding resources for their classrooms. So I have compiled lots of resources for you, some online materials, some games that you can do. So there's a lot of material there that you can look through as well. When you go into the website and you download the slides, you'll have them all on there. So just very, very quickly, in one little word, what is your key takeaway from today? Is there any activity that you will want to do? Is there anything that you might want to remember, like using realia or having the number strip their okay, lovely movement and poems and games, everything. The secret number, 789 joke. Okay, lovely, excellent. So everybody is taking something. I'm really happy about that. So while you keep writing, because I'm going to come back to see that, I am just going to give you my last words, which is a quote. I don't know who said it or wrote it, but it says, "Maths may not teach us how to add love or subtract hate, but it gives us every reason to hope that every problem has a solution." So thank you very much for your attention, your participation, and thank you, yes, George and Solène and Joan-Noel for their support in this session and everybody out there participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was absolutely wonderful. Could you show us the next slide, please?
Yes, of course.
So, if you would like to receive a certificate, we invite you to scan the QR code or to use the link that Solen's putting in the chat. And with that link, we ask you to just offer us some feedback to help us plan for the future. And then at the end, you've got the link for the certificate to download and instructions on how to do that. So many interesting ideas, Sarah. Solen, did we have any questions for Sarah?
We had many questions, and I'm afraid we won't have time for all of them, but maybe a question that comes is around assessment, and if you have any tips on how to assess math skills and language skills in CLIL.
Okay, that's a really good question. It's not very easy to answer in just a few
Mm-mm.
seconds that I've got left. But yes, there are. If you look into CLIL properly, you will see that there is this whole framework about how we assess the different subjects through English or through a different language. So you will find that there are lots of different ways of doing this, and there's assessment for learning and of learning, and you will find all these different concepts. But specifically when we're looking at maths and English, what you first need to think about is really what maths concepts are you trying to teach, of course. So that's what we want to figure out is in the subject what we want to teach, and then in terms of language, what exactly do we want as language aims. So you've got that dual purpose there that you're looking at. You're looking at both aspects, but those are going to be integrated in your lessons. But the language that your students are going to be using needs to be really well embedded. So that's really part of the planning process first, planning really well what your objectives are and how you're going to get to those objectives to then assess those. But yes, there's a whole world around assessment in terms of CLIL.
It could be the topic of an entire webinar. So if you're interested in
Absolutely.
that, please share in the feedback form.
And actually, Selene, I think last year there was a webinar on assessments by Claudia, was it?
Yes, there was, but we could go further in that area, definitely. I think there's lots to be said, but you can always go back to last year's webinars on our webpage, and there you can see the recordings of all of the old webinars, as well as the ones that we're doing this time. In fact, tomorrow there'll be the recording of this webinar, and you can also see the follow-up consolidation task on that web page, which we encourage you to do, as well as an example lesson plan that Sarah's kindly provided, and of course the slides. So I think we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much to Sarah. Thank you to Jean-Noël. Thank you to Solène. Next week, we'll be back again, and we'll be looking next week at teaching science through English. So same time, same place, and your same links. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so, so much. And we'll be sending out the links to the webpage again via Zoom tomorrow. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you
Always a
very much,
pleasure.
everybody.
And goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.